Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, February 19th. If you would please put all phones either off or on silent ring. Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Liner?
Here.
Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Sampson?
Here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Here.
Chairman Mark?
Here. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Lord, we are gathered here this morning to conduct your work. Lord, we are 7 diverse individuals who's trying to do the good for this county and for all of its people. Lord, we ask you to reach down and touch us. Lord, we ask you to respond and be with our first responders and our military who are in harm's way. Lord, we ask you to put the blessings on the families and the folks in Florida and let that community heal. Lord, we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Gentlemen, before we approve the agenda, I just want to bring something to your attention in that we have a long agenda today as far as we have a closed session at the end of it. We have an award to be presented. We have a meeting with the Onslow County people for about 2 hours. And then we have a Board of Education meeting this afternoon. So therefore, if it's all right with you, I'd ask for a motion that we postpone the county manager's comments and the commissioner's comments until after the Board of Education meeting or until our next meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is public hearing on CBG Neighborhood Revitalization Grant. Don Baumgartner.
This is the second public hearing concerning these proposed grant monies for the Community Development Block Grant Revitalization, Neighborhood Revitalization Program. The purpose, again, today, I'll just review, is to talk about the specific activities that the county would be proposing to try to apply for as part of the Hurricane Matthew recovery efforts. The applications will be due in February on the 28th. We've spent considerable time immediately after the storm as well as since that time to determine, based on the type of damages that people received, what we might be able to do to try to provide assistance once they started announcing programs and making funding sources available. What we're looking at doing is basically 2 different types of rehabilitation for these structures that were damaged due to flooding. One of them, we're looking to apply for approximately $300,000 to rehabilitate, and we're also looking to have reconstruction in the amount of $375,000, with a total amount available to pay program consultants to assist us in that process of $75,000. As we mentioned, we were required to hold 2 public hearings. This is the second public hearing, so at this time I will allow anyone that has an interest in trying to speak to talk about this. Again, these funds are to assist people that are low to moderate, 80% low to moderate income. So it is targeted towards a particular sector of the economy to try to assist in making improvements.
Okay, thank you, Don. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're now in public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, nobody signed up for the public hearing.
Okay,
Make the motion go out.
second? We have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of public hearing. Now, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second? Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, rehabilitation, reconstruction, but there's no elevation, there's nothing steps taken to prevent these reoccurring
That-
incidents.
Yes,
Is that correct?
as part of this process, we will have to undertake to meet whatever requirements that we actually end up falling into. If we get involved in greater than 50% of the value of the structure, then we would have to ultimately elevate it. These funds are some very good estimates as to what we think will be there. We really don't know exactly how these numbers will shake out until we can get in and do detailed analysis on the homes and actually get the bids in for the work to be done. And we try to ensure that it's within a reasonable parameter. If it's not, then we rebid those those houses. One thing we have seen is that as more and more of this money becomes available, less and less contractors are available, so costs want to go up and down some depending on how much availability of money there is in different counties and how many contractors there are doing that type of work. So we will be doing some elevation work as well.
And are the houses pretty much identified and prioritized at this time?
The houses will actually be something that we will identify specifically as we go through and qualify the people's income, and we have to get all the necessary information that is being required by the state. So we don't really know yet, Steve, exactly which ones. We have some ideas, and we think this is what we'll do, but there's an additional qualification process. And I think the application process is 28 pages, Chad? 28 pages. So there's quite a bit of information that the state is going to require of these individuals to receive any assistance.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Um,
Vice Chairman.
Don, thank you. As a result of these improvements, is this in any way going to affect the property value of the home itself?
Naturally, once the improvements are made, it will have some effect upon the value of the structure. No question, if there's a, more livable and better structure to be there, it will certainly help to stabilize those areas or those neighborhoods that did have damage done to them as far as the tax values.
Just out of curiosity, is there any consideration given to whether or not the family that is living in that home is going to be able to afford the tax increase that might occur if the property value itself is increased?
Normally, it's not significant enough that we actually get involved in that, but as far as looking at those things or having a whole lot of conversation, most of the properties are in the rural areas, so you don't really see a tremendous amount of change, even though you will have spent maybe be $75,000, $100,000, you normally won't see that total change or effect in the value, because what's there is already somewhat deteriorated, and what we're doing is updating it and getting it back up to some standard would be considered livable.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
have you put do you know a value of the amount of needs that are out there of folks that have petitioned and asked for assistance?
We haven't done a detailed enough analysis of that. We know there's around 45 or so structures that had some form of damage, one or the other. Some of those, the people are still not living in those structures. Some of them have been displaced, and they're living with family and friends and ministers. But we will know more as there's more money available, and as we can spend the time to have the consultants working out in those areas with detailed, we now are getting some detailed information that we can start going in and trying to get the money, each of those structures that have been damaged in each of those households. So it's a process. You really can't tell who is going to be qualified until we get through that 28-page application process, and the state has a lot of detailed information that they're requesting of individuals.
For the audience knowledge, the median income in Craven County is about $47,000, so 80% of that would be probably a family income of about $37,000 to $38,000.
It actually, I think, is just a tad lower than that, but you're in the range, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I know they did some elevation of some homes in New Bern, and I really haven't seen that much different in, haven't had any complaints about the tax rate going up on them.
Okay, Commissioner Sampson? Do I have a motion?
I'll make
It's
a
already
motion.
been made.
It was already,
Yes,
okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, say nay. The ayes have it.
One more thing I wanted to mention to you, and you all may have heard about this on the news, but the state of North Carolina has received some additional funding, approximately $100 million statewide, to assist Hurricane Matthew recovery, housing, infrastructure, and jobs that were displaced as a result of Hurricane Matthew. So it could be that Craven County may stand to try to get, some additional funds to try to address some additional households.
Good question.
Yes.
Don, when's that information gonna be made available, when you can apply, or what can you apply for, other
We-
than what you just mentioned?
We haven't heard any additional details from the state other than just a general memo that said in the budget that was recently passed that there was $100 million that was going to be allocated to assist with Hurricane Matthew housing recovery and infrastructure and jobs. It was labeled as jobs as well.
So would it not behoove us to go ahead and get our backlog and everything made up and get our paperwork on these 28 we're filing, and already have them on hand so we can be ahead of the game?
And everything, all the information that we have on each applicant has been forwarded to the state. The state is handling these approval processes in a lot of different ways, depending on which grant it is. Some of them, the state has actually hired a consulting firm to approve these people. In this particular program, that's what will be happening. The state will actually have consultants making decisions about whether people will be able to qualify for those forms of assistance. And, but some of the other programs that they have, we're doing that in-house with the information they're giving us. So we're basically prepared just as soon as they make us aware that we can try to move forward to get that money out. But at this time, this has been a very slow process. The state has been working hard to manage how this money is spent, and it really has somewhat slowed the process down compared to efforts that we had during Hurricane Floyd back in 1999. So it's a little bit different process than we've seen before with this CDBG-DR funding.
Mr. Chair, I have one question. How many counties that gonna probably receive that $100 million? Just Craven County only?
We have no idea at this time. They've just announced it's coming to North Carolina for Hurricane Matthew, but that's the extent of what we know at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Yes, sir.
Next is the consent agenda, which consists of minutes of February 5th, tax releases and refunds, convention center budget amendment. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Reiner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman March?
Yes. Thank you. Next is the Trillium Health Resources Annual Report. Dave Peterson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. Every year I come in and give you all an update on Trillium Health Resources, and I first want to start by thanking Commissioner Dacy and David Creech, who serve on our board. They both give valuable input to how we operate our system. So I want to start by just telling our brief mission of transforming lives of people in need by providing ready access to quality care. Sounds pretty simple, but it isn't. We have had a great deal of changes regarding budget cuts this past year, actually this past 4 years. And so what we have had to try to do is, because of the Medicaid reform, trying to adapt and evolve in order to make sure that we're continuing to provide services and supports with people with disabilities. So one of the things that we did on November 15th, we did an agreement with 2 other managed care organizations in the state, Alliance and Behavioral Health and VIA. Alliance is 4 counties in the central part of the state, and VIA has 23 counties on the western part of the state. So with our 25 counties, this collaborative effort between the 3 of us covers 52 counties. I want to make sure folks are hearing this isn't a merger, okay? This is a partnership in order to address how we can better apply for when the state starts moving towards what they're calling a tailored plan, in order for us as managed care organizations to oversee the services and supports for people with disabilities. So a little bit about us. Last fiscal year, we were 24 counties, all right? We had a total population of 1.26 million, about 185,000 Medicaid eligible individuals. We were about 13% of the state population. As you can see, we had a lot of square miles, over 11,000 square miles, and a wide variety in population between New Hanover County, our largest one, and Terrell County, our smallest one, and everything in between. So on July 1, we added another county. Nash County decided to leave the previous managed care organization they were with and wanted to join Trillium. So on July 1, they joined us, and that increased our total population by 100,000, or they're about 96,000 in Nash County, which also then increased our Medicaid eligibles by 10,000. So we're up to 195,000. As you can see, it increased our population total coverage of 14%, but Nash County has a lot more Medicaid in there, so it went from 13% up to 16% Medicaid eligibles in there. So now we're 25 counties. Every year we do the annual gaps and needs analysis, and I won't go into a lot of detail of this, but we try to collect national, state, and local data to address our gaps and needs. And then we do surveys with a variety of stakeholders, consumer family advisory committees, any stakeholders in the community that can fill out the survey. And then we try to make sure we assess what that survey is telling us on what our gaps and needs are. So our statistics last year, we had served 52,650 people within our 25 counties. About 79% of those individuals had a mental health diagnosis, about 19% had substance use disorders, and about 9% had intellectual and developmental disabilities. Total cost of serving those folks was $355 million, okay? We also make sure that we don't provide direct services, we oversee agencies that do, and we had about 430 agencies that we oversee. Very quickly, some of our priorities. We try to make sure that we're improving customer service. We have gone into much more evidence-based practices in our services. We want to make sure we're strengthening the use of technology. And one example of that is having a variety of folks having access to online doctors, okay? We've also tried to make sure we're improving community relationships through meetings like this, but also, many of you know Jean Kenefick, who lives right here. She's our system of care coordinator and does a wonderful job down here. We also try to make sure that we're consistently communicating between departments. Everybody's been asking about what we're doing with the opioid crisis. One of the things that the state did get was $31 million last year. $31 million spread throughout the state. Okay? Trillium, it was split up as a 2-year grant. Trillium, the first year, got 1.2 million. Okay? And those are for services for people with a primary diagnosis of opioid abuse, and they have to be need to be seen. They're not currently in services. So within the first 6 months, we spent our 1.2 million within 6 months. It was supposed to be good for a year. Okay, serving.
Dave,
Yes.
excuse me, sir. Mr. Chairman, so we have Wilmington within Trillium's area.
Yes. Yes.
We have Jacksonville within Trillium's area.
Yes.
We have the number 1 and the number 12 most impacted communities
Yes.
from the opioid
Yep.
problem within Trillium.
Yes.
And we received 1.2 million of the $31 million that the state had available to it.
Yes, sir.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, so let me preface, there is a second year part of this grant, okay? And we are going to be getting, the one good thing that happened with this was they assessed how quickly money went out. And it wasn't just going out to anybody. We have top-notch providers that are doing opioid abuse services. So this second year, we think we're getting more than most of the other managed care organizations because of exactly your point, Commissioner Dacey, is Wilmington and Jacksonville, but it's pretty rampant in almost every county, okay? So we are gonna be getting more. My gut says the intent of the state is to show to the federal government that how quickly in North Carolina this money is being utilized. Therefore, after this 2-year grant is done, that they can then advocate to get additional dollars to continue support people with opioids.
Of the new $6 billion that was provided for in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the advocacy. So the other activities that have been taking place, and Craven County did have a very successful opioid forum, and that's happening throughout a variety of counties now. So some of the initiatives that we've been pushing for that Trillium has done is we have purchased beds at the Healing Transitions in Raleigh, and we've had 354 admissions at that facility. We have had Oxford houses, and Craven County has Oxford houses here, and we have served 242 people in and those are called sober living homes. We have also funded to the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition funding for naloxone kits. And sheriff's departments and police departments can call the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition to ask for Trillium's funding for those naloxone kits. I would encourage they do that July 1 because those kits have run out very quickly the last 2 years. So if you want free naloxone kits, I would call them on July 1. But this is the last year that right now we have funded for that because of budget cuts.
Mr. Chairman, Dave, those are not the nasal spray, correct?
Correct.
Those are the, I'm trying to think of the way, the
Injection,
needle, the
yeah.
injection type,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And we gave out the nasal spray.
You gave out the nasal spray.
Yeah, yeah. We also have wellness cities, which are peer-run in Greenville, Wilmington, and here in New Bern. So we're trying to address the opioid initiative with those things. And we're doing a variety of other things also, but those are the big ones. We do have some advancing technology activities. One of the things that I will point out, the most successful one, I shouldn't say most successful, one of the things that's really taken a lot of folks and have served folks is the crisis, or the crisis chat. Kids do not talk, they text, okay? And so this is a texting opportunity for kids to talk about their issues, and we have set up this crisis chat with a text line with a provider that does a lot of services, but their main thing is mobile crisis. So Integrated Family Services has set that service up. So some of the outcomes, as you know, we have set up some respite programs with throughout our counties, and we do have that here in Craven County. And we've set up accessible playgrounds. We have a couple of them in Craven County. We also have moved into making sure that we're doing evidence-based practices. And I won't go through all of these, but the big one that is also addressing the opioid issue is this Child First. And basically, that's serving kids from 0 to 6 years old that have gone through a traumatic event. And if everybody has seen some of those pictures of the parents that are overdosed sitting in the front seat with the kid in the back seat, okay? That's a traumatic event that service can help those kids deal with. So and that's a licensed clinician going to the people's houses, okay? Not coming into an office, they're going into the homes. So we're doing a variety of projects for our reinvestment dollars, which, like I have said earlier, have been cut these past 4 years. So specific to Craven County, total served is 4,319 individuals, 3,202 with a primary diagnosis of mental health, 986 with a substance use disorder, and 446 with an intellectual and developmental disabilities. And obviously, these don't add up to the 4,319 because people have multiple diagnoses and receive services for those. So I knew I had only about 15 minutes, and so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions by any of the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Reiner?
Well, your 15 minutes has just been extended. I'll tell you that. Dave, I appreciate you coming, but I got some questions and everything else brought up here that you brought up. Are you not going to be too big to handle? I mean, your sizes has grown each time you've come, as far as providers. There's only so many providers out there, and there's so much available. I'm concerned that you're getting way too big to provide for the individual counties of what we started out with. You know, we started out with 8 to 12, and now we're up to 54. So what is your take on your sizes growing and have the small county feel and looking for the homegrown?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that when we did grow from, and as you remember, we were 19 counties as East Carolina Behavioral Health. And when we grew to the 24 counties, we then set up these regions for you and I to have this type of interaction, okay? For me to be out there and for folks like Gene, who lives right here in New Bern, all right, to have that local contact for services and supports. And so I do understand in the sense of, yes, we are getting bigger, but our primary goal was also to make sure that we're staying local, because we are defined as a local management entity, or LME, and that's our intent, because counties are what support us. So that's our intent, is to stay local.
Well, I have no problem with you, I have no problem with Gene, but I think they've got to deal with corporate and higher up, and then where are the priorities and where it sets at. So I'll let that go. That's my concerns on that. 52,650 people, 19% substance use disorder. how many beds, other than what you've listed back here, have you provided for? And how many beds short were you out of this 19% that you thought that you could have used the beds?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there will always be a shortage. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? As many of you know, probably, it's been now 6 years ago when the state started to cut the number of state beds, and then they've slowly come back and added additional state psychiatric beds. Still not enough for what is necessary out there. We have purchased 35 beds in Raleigh, okay? And those are being accessed by all of our counties. And so one of the things that we had planned were those two large facilities, one in Greenville and one in New Hanover County. And because the state took $53 million away from us, our startup money cannot be utilized to start those facilities up. Right now, New Hanover County is taking a look at them funding the startup for the one down there.
I've got quite a few questions, so if anybody wants to jump in, I'll lay my time, but on that, but I got more. 52,650 people served at a cost of $355 million. A little over $6,700 a person on that. I mean, that seems expensive, except for the bed portion and everything else. And I guess it's leading up to, you show you do a lot of work in this county, but you don't actually break it down of the 4,500 or so that you did, 4,319, of how they were totally breaking down. Now, mental health, substance abuse, what others are you covering in there to cover that charges? Because for us, that equates to only 8% of the total served of your population for this county being served of 8%.
So you're asking,
I'm asking, what do you do other than what you listed here in this county of services being provided for this cost of
yeah.
taking the $6,700 per person for all your people for the 355 million? I want to know what we're getting and what's being served other than what, you know,
Yeah,
the mental health side and some of the other, that can cover a lot of different areas. And
Yes.
that's a lot of cost for one individual
Yeah.
to come in and see a counselor, but maybe.
Yep. So that's a good question, Commissioner. One of the things that I didn't highlight in here are the basic services that we provide. And when I say basic services, they range from someone just getting outpatient services with a mental health issue, okay? All the way up to someone, and they average about $56,000 a year, because some people with intellectual and developmental disabilities need 24/7 care, okay? So those individuals are on the high end of costs because they're 24/7 services, okay? So you have it, and everything in between, from substance abuse services that we provide, mental health services, but your basic is outpatient and your high end is 24/7.
Okay. If you could, I don't know about the rest of the board, but if you could provide me with something like that.
Yes.
Of how it's broken down for this county, of how it's going, because I want to see what we're getting for our money that we're providing.
I think that'd be a good idea for the board.
You know,
Yep, I can get that. Yep.
for us to better understand
Does
that.
that include all the service providers, like, you fund all the local, we used to call them group homes, I don't know what
Yes,
they're.
yep, we fund a lot of those, you know, and there's, a a lot of providers in Craven County that do services and supports for folks, and I can pull out, you know, not only, and I think you referencing the numbers of served, but you want it broken down for the cost and that sort of thing.
For
Yes.
me, I'm a little bit slow. I see those numbers,
That's-
but when you're talking $6,700 a person,
Yep,
you don't tell me in here, you know,
58,000 for one
724
individual,
for- and
yes.
everything else.
Yep,
I like them.
yep.
I don't need names or anything
Yeah.
else, but what service are we getting? What are we providing for our people?
Yep, I
on here?
can provide that.
And what results, do you show a results for your opioid-based programs? I mean, you've already, after 6 months, you've already spent all of your money. So where do we go from here for your funding? You're taking that out of another pot of money, I'm assuming.
That,
Pay-
the allocation from the state, yes.
Yeah, to pay for that. But what's the success rate? And how do you judge, or how do you base a first individual coming in wanting assistance and help on opioid compared to a person who's been in it 2 or 3 times, who's coming back for additional treatment? How do you set your priorities of how you're gonna put people in?
So I'm not sure if there's a priority of, if someone wants to come in for services, you can't say, well, you've been here 4 or 5 times, we're not gonna serve you, versus a new person coming in. If anybody comes in that's wanting services, okay, we're gonna try to make sure that they receive services, okay? So there isn't really a priority of, you know, who. In this grant that the state gave us, this 2-year grant, it does have to be someone that with a primary diagnosis of opioid abuse, okay? And if they're currently in services, they don't qualify for these buckets of money, okay?
Understand that there. But you're also taking people back who have been out of treatment and are ready to seek treatment
Yes,
again.
yes, yep,
You don't have enough money to cover everybody.
yes.
But if you got first-timers who's been diagnosed and have the paperwork and everything else, you can't take them all. So it's just a first come, first served, regardless if it's the first time
I get
person.
your point, yes. Yeah, so I can check on that with our 2 largest providers. I can check on how if they are saying, sorry, you've been here. I don't think they're doing that, but,
Well, I'm hoping
Yeah.
not, but I also
Yeah.
want to make sure, I'd like to see, and I think the public, I mean, it's money out there. Now, don't get me wrong on this, you know, an individual's life is an individual's life and it's cherished. But I'd like to see the success rate of what is going through the
Right.
program.
yeah, understood.
I mean, if
Yeah.
we're putting through 100 and we're getting 95 back in 6 months, then we're not doing very well. And I'm not saying
Right,
that,
right,
but
right.
I think we need to see some type of results.
Well, I will reference the program, the Healing Transitions in Raleigh is about a 69% success rate. All right? They've been there since 1991, and I have actually taken commissioners to the Healing Transitions in Raleigh just to see how that works. It's a very well-run program, and it's a powerful program.
Mr. Chairman, while he's thinking.
Yes,
about another question,
Commissioner Sampson?
I'd just like to say that, I know an individual came to see me, and I went through some process of trying to get him some help. And finally, after I did get a place to send him, I had to go to South Carolina. Couldn't find no place in North Carolina to send him. Now, I can't understand why North Carolina couldn't take care of it if they had some money. Now, he spent 30 days in South Carolina. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs about how the states work together, but I haven't heard anything about North Carolina and South Carolina working together in this issue. So I had a hard time. Took me about 3 days to get him some help. When you gotta first ask for some help, now, most of them not gonna wait 3 days, they'll be back on it. So we need to, I remember when we had a program just as this in in New Bern, here right here in New Bern. And they were doing fine, then they began to venture out with other cities and other states working together, and it seemed like we were just about getting short in the stick, the way I can see it.
Commissioner Lanner?
Dave, again, I want to appreciate you being here.
No problem, no problem.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. but
That's
I've got
quite all right.
A lot of questions and everything
Yeah,
else.
that's
I think
quite all
you've
right.
heard, because we have a lot of decisions to make in front of us, and making sure we're getting the right amount of money.
Yes.
The right thing, and we're getting
Understand.
what the taxpayer is paying us to
Mhm.
do on that. If you could get us that information, I mean, I think it would be a help, an
I can do
easier
that.
sell, but the numbers you give us is just numbers.
Yep,
You know,
I can
both
understand
sides,
that.
the numbers can be manipulated any way we want to do it.
Right.
But I appreciate everything you've done.
You're welcome.
And you're doing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So just to put something in, a little bit of this into context. First of all, thank you, Dave, for all of your hard work and the level of attention that you continue to give Craven County.
Yep.
I am a constant source of frustration to you, I know that, and I
No, you're not.
apologize.
No, you're not.
I serve not on the main board of directors for Trillium, but on one of the 3 regional boards. And so I don't have any of the influence over the budget or anything like that, but we are asked to make certain that if there are concerns from our communities, that those concerns are provided through this regional board system. I found it to be very responsive. On this Thursday, we're going to be meeting, all 3 of the boards, of the regional boards, will be meeting with the main board in Greenville at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll be at that meeting.
Great.
Looking forward to it. So if any of the board members today have got questions, I'm more than happy to try to bring those to the larger board meeting on Thursday. We do one of those meetings a year, and it's something that I think we're all looking forward to. Craven County's direct participation, and when I mean direct, I mean it's the cash that Craven County actually puts into Trillium, is about $270,000 a year. That represents 0.07% of Trillium's entire budget. So we are, as Commissioner Liner rightly pointed out, the number of people that are being served here in Craven County represents about 8% of the total. Our contribution from a taxpayer perspective that is direct is 0.07%. So it's a relatively small amount of money given the overall amount of money that we're putting in. Now, it's not to say that taxpayers aren't paying for the rest of that. We're paying for it because those people are primarily Medicaid recipients. So of course, there's a federal contribution and a state contribution that goes into that. There are state funds that come into Trillium. And then, of course, and for both of those 2 pots of money, there are significant restrictions that are placed on the way in which those monies can be used. The money that we provide to Trillium, that $270,000, comes from the ABC bottle tax. Is that correct, County Manager?
Some of it does, and some of it's a direct county appropriation.
And some of it's direct?
It's a mix of the two.
It's a little mix of the 2. So those monies are what to keep things simple in my mind, I call those green dollars. And those are monies that can be used by Trillium for a whole host of different things. And some of those things have been very helpful to us here in Craven County. Other times, we maybe haven't been as large of a recipient as other times. But it would be those monies that we're going to talk about later on today when we talk about the detoxification facility down in Onslow County. It would be taking those monies, either all of it or a portion of it, to be used in support of that detox facility in Onslow County. So I just wanted to be clear about that as we're going into this discussion. Now, Mr. Peterson, do you have any opinion that you want to share with us about that detox facility at all, or is there anything that you can tell us? And if you've even got time later on today, we're going to be meeting after this to talk about it. I don't know if you knew about that, and I apologize.
No, I didn't know about
Okay, I'm
that.
sorry.
But, yeah, I think any counties that are willing to help support us as a system, And that is a system moved by Onzo, Carteret, and possibly Craven County to really help serve those individuals. Because, one, our budgets have been cut significantly. And I'll say this, Trillium's budget was the lowest cut because we've reinvested the most back into the communities compared to the other MCOs. But with that being said, any support from counties to get these services and supports going, because there's a lot of the individuals they do have private insurance coverage, which we're not responsible for, okay? And I know Commissioner Dacey and I have had a lot of conversations over the past couple of years about those types of facilities and how many of those how many folks going into those type of facilities have Medicaid or completely uninsured versus those with insurance.
And of course, the detox facility is something that would be important in getting those people
Yes.
addressed as they're going through that crisis, and then putting them in a position where they could go into a longer-term facility.
Yes.
Which, of course, there still aren't enough beds for anyway.
No.
And we know as a nation that we've got a real problem when we have a more convenient access to the drug itself than
Yep.
we have to a process in trying to find a cure.
Good point. Yes, I
And
agree.
that's the fundamental problem that we're suffering from here in America today.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you, I've had enough.
Thank you.
You're
Dave.
welcome.
I have,
Oh,
Mr.
you have a
Chairman,
question?
Yeah, just a couple questions. How did Medicaid, I'm assuming that you're talking about the state Medicaid reform, how did that affect your budget? I know it took, you said $53 million away, but what is the state, did they say what they were gonna be doing with that money? Are they using that to some other part?
Probably. Well, not in our part, though.
Right.
Not
I mean,
under DHHS.
Not in
in that
mental
sense.
health, but
Yeah.
maybe just in medical care, but I'd be
Yeah, we have
curious
not-
to know what they did with that, because, I'll be honest with you, I had very high hopes about the facility that
Yes.
was being proposed in Greenville,
Yep. Yeah.
North Carolina. Wasn't that was it 100 or 200?
200 bed, both of them, the one in Wilmington and in Greenville were both 200 bed facilities, yes.
And did I hear you say they were moving forward with one in Wilmington?
They're looking, that one has more momentum than the one in Greenville, yes. Yes. The county is meeting regularly on how they can propose the startup costs for that.
But
And that was going to be Trillium's input, is the startup cost, which is about $12 million.
Okay, I mean, I was just curious, Mr. Chairman, what the state did with the $53 million that they took from your budget. I mean,
Well, I'll add to it that it was about $263 million statewide.
but you don't know what happened to that money.
No.
It's a good question.
Mr. Chairman, could I, yes,
May I just interject something
Yeah.
on that? Dave, I think the root of some of the issues, and I know this may be uncomfortable for a second, but, I mean, there was a LME MCO that was having some
Yes.
significant control problems in the western part of the state. I know that's recently been resolved, I think, to some degree, with the state taking over that function.
Yes.
Do we see a path forward that some of this standoff is gonna be resolved with that now changing?
Well, the state has, or the legislators have in front of them right now what's called a standard/tailored plan, okay? And if folks haven't seen that yet, I would encourage you to take a look at that. And that's the direction the state's going, where they are looking at potentially privatizing a piece of our system. And you heard my example of someone receiving just basic outpatient, once-a-month mental health services. Well, possibly the way this plan will go is a private insurance company would manage the low-end, low-needs individuals for mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use. And the tailored plan would be managed by managed care, us as a local management entity. I think that's the direction the state is trying to go. We still haven't heard whether we're gonna be the ones managing the high-end utilizers or not. because the legislators are debating about that right now. So that is, I think, Jack, the direction they're looking at to resolve
Right.
the managed care organization issues out there.
I didn't mean to take away from you, Commissioner. I just think
No, no.
it's a major problem that we don't know where that money went, but I think the problem that was causing some of the diversion is
Yeah,
in the process of being fixed, so hopefully.
Well, just one point, I did speak with a gentleman that has been working for Cardinal as a consultant the other day, and he told me that their new board of directors has now been appointed.
Yes, it has.
That they have now, I guess, been let loose of state control, and they are now back managing their own affairs.
Yes, yeah. And so it is, it never stopped operating, they just need to get a new board and some new executive staff in there.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you for your 15 minutes.
Take care.
Next on the agenda is the chairman. Last week, I handed out a resolution from Lenore County supporting the Atlantic Coast pipeline, and for you to look over. And I've asked the staff, county manager, to come up with a resolution for Craven County that we could send off to the governor and also to people in legislature. So I'll just read it to you. Resolution in support of the construction of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Whereas Craven County Board of Commissioners supports the business community and promotes economic development and education in its communities. And whereas growth in these sectors serve as a catalyst for improving the quality of life in Craven County community, and whereas Craven County Board of Commissioners advocates for industrial growth in eastern North Carolina and the creation of jobs which grow the economy of Craven County, eastern North Carolina as a whole. Whereas rural eastern North Carolina lacks an adequate infrastructure necessary for economic growth with the absence of natural gas available for manufacturing. And whereas a group of major U.S. energy companies, including Dominion, Duke Energy, and Southern Gas, recently formed a joint partnership to build the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, a 600-mile natural gas transmission line that will run from Harrison County to West Virginia to Robeson County in our state. Whereas this proposed 600-mile route of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline will pass through the eastern part of North Carolina, and whereas the Atlantic Coast Pipeline will make the growing supplies of natural gas produced in the Appalachian shale basins, such as Marcellus and Utica formations, more available to homes and businesses in eastern North Carolina. Whereas this project will also help prevent shortages of pipeline capacity in North Carolina, such as the one which resulted in several natural gas price spikes during the extremely cold winter of 2014. Whereas this enhanced access will not only promote North Carolina continued economic development, but also improve air quality by enabling power generators to build a convert plant to use this environmentally friendly fuel. Now therefore be it resolved on this 19th day of February 2018 that Craven County Board of Commissioners supports construction of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline and notes the project's significant benefits for our state's consumer utilities, industries, and continued economic growth. I'm going to ask for some discussion. On my part, I know I just paid $650 this past month for propane gas. And that's a large amount of money to pay to heat your home. Is there any discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I may, I respect the chairman and for bringing it to the board. I've heard a lot of discussion about this over the course of the last few months, especially through my involvement with North Carolina Farm Bureau. I do think it has its positives, the economic impact that it will bring to Eastern North Carolina, but it also has its negatives. One thing I've heard from several farmers that live up around Nash County, up in there. Land that's been in their families for a century. With the interstate eminent domain that is coming and the taking of property. So we're saying that it has its positives and negatives. I don't take a position on it today, one way or the other, far as in favor or against. The only thing I will state, I know there are some citizens in our county that have a desire to address this board through public comment about this resolution. And for that, Mr. Chairman, again, I respect that the board, if you do vote for it today, but I would have to not support it for the one reason, not taking a position that I'm against it verbally, or I don't take a position for it either, but saying that today we ought to give those citizens the opportunity at the next meeting, if they so desire, to voice their concerns. And so I just state that for the record.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment on it too. I kind of concur with Jason. At this point in time, I'd probably vote for it if we voted on it today. I did do a little, I mean, this is a pipeline. We're not producing natural gas or anything else in North Carolina. This is just moving it from where they are producing it to North Carolina.
Correct.
So it has been vetted by DENR, and there was no environmental hazard or nothing that would prevent the project. So the environmentalists have looked at it. Doesn't mean it's gonna go through. There may be some lawsuits involved before it's over with, but it just seems like it's, I mean, if somebody had some negative to say about it, I would say it may be that I think the natural gas is coming from fracking, but it's coming from fracking in West Virginia. And I think that's kind of a trade-off. Those that are concerned about fracking, but they're also, this generation, the power generation is being done by natural gas instead of coal. So I think there's some trade-offs environmentally, one way or the other. Most of this, is my understanding, at least, is gonna be on the, coming down, I guess, kind of paralleling Interstate 95. Is that within the right-of-way of the interstate, do we know, or is that having to take?
I think some of that, and then some
Yeah.
private property.
Combination of both.
So, but anyhow, if there are people that have concern about it, is there any urgency of time
No.
that this be passed?
No, there's no urgency. I just think, in my part, it's been approved by the Federal Environmental Regulation Commission. I think that it's going to create new jobs. It's going to lower the cost of fuel, energy, and it certainly would help bring industries into the Craven County or into the counties that it will throw through, which will bring additional tax revenue to those people. There's no hurry to vote on it. I just feel that, I think it's after reading a lot, if you go on the internet, you can find out the pros and cons of it. Many of the farmers that I read on the internet agreed that it was, you know, they were getting a fair share and it was helping them out. And it certainly helped the farmers in other ways as far as economic development in their area. Is there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Do you think we should table this until you hear from the public knowledge on this? To the next meeting?
That's up to you people. That's not up to me as a person. I mean, as chairman, I can't tell you what to do, but
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
just stressing the point that I'm in favor of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we would postpone this until we give the public a chance.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Question, Mr.
Yes.
Can we put a date on it for the next meeting?
Yes, sir. If that's the will of the board,
I mean,
yes.
we put a
Yeah.
date on it so we
Yeah.
don't drag it out here. But the
Is
next
that all right
meeting,
with
is
you,
that,
commissioners?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we'll postpone it to our next meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody that is against it?
Mr. Chairman, would
Yes.
it be possible for someone to see if they can have, I know there'll be probably some people here speaking against it, but having somebody here that may have a lot of detailed knowledge on this
Yeah.
subject, a representative of Duke Energy or someone that could actually have the facts.
I would recommend
Stevenson.
Durwood Stevenson
Yeah,
with Highway
Durwood
70
Stevenson.
corridor. He has probably done more research on this than anybody I know in North Carolina.
Yeah. I can ask him, in fact, I'm gonna be with him this Thursday, so I'll ask him if he could make it at our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, is that a public hearing, or will it be heard
No,
under
it wouldn't be for
petitions?
a public, that would just be for regular
Petitioners? Okay.
people signing up for
Thank you.
So
representation.
that's the board's decision, Mr. Chairman. I mean, typically with an issue like this,
Yeah.
it doesn't have a policy impact. If public comments is usually acceptable, that's the board's prerogative.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Public comment.
Yep,
He made a
I will
motion.
second the motion for, just put it on the public comment.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you. Department Matters Cooperative Extension, Tom Glasgow.
Excuse me. Our crops agent and agriculture agent, Mike Carroll, is working on a couple of grants in support of Craven County agriculture. One of them will be a grant to establish a pesticide recycling container facility located at Crop Production Services in Vanceboro. And these pesticide containers will be shredded and recycled by a contractor. The amount is uncertain, but it will be up to $12,000. The second grant involves funding to research and demonstrate drone technology for, at this point, tobacco and peanut producers. And this drone technology will be a way to assess nutritional issues with the crop, potential disease and insect issues with the crop. And that is the, excuse me, the amount is $10,000. Mike could not be here this morning because he's in an educational presentation, but I'm standing in for him, and our request is simply, if we are successful in getting these grants, that the money be housed in Craven County Finance.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe these call for a roll call vote.
I think maybe the way he said it, it would be appropriate to wait until the monies are received, and then we can add it to the budget.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve both of these?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All, any discussion?
The only thing I will say, Mr. Chairman, for item A, pesticide recycling container facility, this is something that we've wanted for a long time in Craven County from the agriculture community. I think it would be a great asset. We are putting some very toxic pesticides into our facilities, and so I think this will definitely help. Some of these pesticides that we are using now, even the fumes of them, you know, they will burn you. And I think by putting this at Crop Production Services, they're informed, they know about pesticides and how to handle them, and so I think that's a great location. So I commend Cooperative Extension for reaching out and trying to get this funding, and I think it will be beneficial.
Having served on our solid waste facility in Tuscarora, I would agree with you 100%. Okay, we have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nay? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Department matters, Health Department, Scott Harrelson.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Had two agenda items, and the first was a new fee recommendation. A fee established for ProQuad, a combo vaccine. And what this is basically MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, with the addition of varicella for chickenpox. And with this vaccine, the combo vaccines are becoming more and more popular. It can turn a 4-shot visit into a 2-shot visit for a 12-month-old to a 12-year-old. And we would like to establish this basically for third-party, private insurance. We have state-supplied vaccine, but we don't have a fee established for sort of a growing demand for private insurance. For instance, with the county insurance, if a county employee came in with a child of that age, our insurance does not cover that vaccine, so they would be eligible for the state-supplied vaccine. There's no income variable at all associated with it. But then, on the other hand, we have folks coming in with maybe a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan that does cover the cost of the vaccine, so we need to establish it because they're not eligible for the state-supplied vaccine because their insurance actually covers the cost of the vaccine. And the proposed fee for this ProQuad vaccine, $203. And with any vaccine that we distribute, we have a $17 fee on top of that. So $203 for the vaccine and $17 administration fee.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
I think you have another one there, right?
Yes, sir. I have the big ask for the mobile dental unit. Came to you last time I was here before you. We were asking permission to move forward with a request for proposal for a mobile unit. We have an opportunity to sell our current unit for $100,000 to Martin Carroll Washington District Health Department, but we really needed to see if we could find a mobile unit that was suitable for less than $500,000. And fortunately, we sent out for bid and had 3 bid responses. And Lifeline, our current vendor, was actually what we felt was the best bid response. Now, they came in about $100,000 less than the next closest bidder. There were definitely some nice products from all 3, but this seemed to have everything that we had asked for in the bid, and they came in least expensive. Now, I think the bid came back in somewhere around $374,000, but that did not include some things that we're going to need. $83,000 worth of dental, and Mr. Holton has put the floor plan up. In that bid proposal, things like a toilet and restroom were not included, so it was stripped down a bit. But even if you added all of the items back in, the dental equipment, flip seats, and put the toilet back in, a number of different items, it came back up to about $475,000, and that was still cheaper with all of the dental equipment than the next closest bid. So where we're at today, or what we would like to request, the unit is about $475,000 finished out. We did have some cost-saving measures. We removed the generator, which saved us about $18,000. All of the sites that we go to now are shore power. And to be honest with you, the current unit we have does have a diesel generator on it, but we have not used it to function to see children the past 4 or 5 years with our new dentist. So we felt like we just couldn't justify that kind of expense. We'd rather put that money towards some other items we needed. So here today, I guess we're asking for proposal or to move forward with Lifeline on the bid at a price of $485,000. And then also sell our current unit when the time is right to Martin Terrell Washington for $100,000.
That's $385,000.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
In
Vice Chairman.
the sale of our existing trailer, do they need the generator? The people to whom we're selling it?
They would, yes, sir, they would.
want it.
They would want it as is. They do have to add some additional things to it, but good question, and I think that question was asked, but
Okay.
we sort of sold it to them as an as-is product.
Okay.
Or proposed selling it to them with that.
Now, how old was that?
The current is 20 years old.
20 years old. You
And
got
a-
our money's worth out of that.
Yes, a lot of the parts they're original to the unit. They have served their purpose, and similar units, like the one we purchased when I was in New Hanover, Brunswick is half the age, and they're looking to replace it right now.
Mr. Chairman, I think the board, if you haven't looked at the plans or seen the booklet on this, this one's completely different than our new, or our old one. This is like a RV that's got a
Yeah.
bump out and everything else, gives it
Yes,
plenty of
sir.
room and access. I mean, it's a nice looking piece of equipment.
It is impressive. I think that when it would arrive and have the open house for it, if we go that way, it would look very much different than the one we have now.
Well, we need it.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. I think we need a roll call vote.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your support on that, gentlemen.
Next on the program is Melanie Wade.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And what I'm bringing today is a budget amendment. We, due to legislation and lawsuits and things that have been going on with elections, we're having to mail out 46,000 voter cards, which was not anticipated in the original budget when we did it back last year. So we're requesting 16,000 to be put in our postage line item so that we can mail voters, the 46,000 voters who were affected with new House districts, new House District 79 and new House District 3, which will be our new House districts in Craven County. So we're just seeking a budget amendment to add to the postage so we can get these cards mailed by February 28th.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. 79 covers Fairfield, doesn't it?
Yes, 79 is the other side of the river, Bridgeton
Okay.
and Fairfield Harbor. It does.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson? Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you.
Again, let me just add, when you get your voter card, please keep it. Unless you have changes, don't mail it back to us. Thank you.
Can I throw it away?
Nope.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Dale Holland and Don Baumgartner for Department Matters and Planning.
Yes, sir. I'm going to handle both of those presentations this morning. The FY16 flood mitigation grant budget ordinances and amendments. The county has received the flood mitigation grant to elevate approximately 5 structures. The 2 grant amounts are $502,173, also $348,099. Both of these projects are 100% funded from FEMA through the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. No county funds are required. And at this time, we would need the board, in order to move forward with this project, to adopt the budget ordinance, budget amendments, and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary paperwork to move forward with the program.
Okay, now, for the audience, these people all had insurance, flood insurance on their homes.
Yes.
And had had a number of, or in this case, 50% wipeout, is that correct?
Had a number of repetitive losses, and those repetitive losses are actually put into a program to determine if it's more cost-effective for the federal flood insurance program to elevate the homes than it is to go through the process of keep paying out claims. So a lot of these homes have had excessive claims history on them.
Okay. Did you want to ask any questions, sir?
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one. Don, is there anything in the mitigation program that would allow you to just, I mean, you could buy somebody out, 'cause a lot of times it costs $100,000 to raise a single wide or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you,
There
is it up
is,
to the individual? In other
Yes.
words, if the government said, well, we can find you a place and replace what you have for 50,000 instead of 80,000 to raise it today, does the government get the option to make that choice?
what actually happens is the individual can apply for buyout, or they can apply for elevation assistance, and in some cases, it is determined that maybe elevation isn't viable and reconstruction on the same site would be a viable consideration. So it's up to the applicant to apply for these funds, because during the process, when the homes are being worked on, they're displaced, and it's up to them to be able to find a location to stay. So it's quite a process for someone to go through, but it's up to the individuals. In some instances, when we get involved with those homes doing the work write-ups, if it's determined that what we have is not feasible, then sometimes we go through the process of asking to have reconstruction done on the site, and we bid out brand-new construction for a similar number of square feet. The thing that controls how, what size the structure will be is basically the number of square footages that we can have built for the maximum amount of grant award, which is $150,000. So it really limits sometimes reconstruction to just nothing more than a basic house. So it really is up to the individuals to apply for those types of programs. Then we at the county take that information and come before you as a board and make a recommendation as to whether we're going to pursue these projects and this pass-through of money.
Okay. In this particular case, going back to Vice Chairman Dacey's question before, these buildings are, the valuation would be higher on them after completion of this work, is that correct?
Most of the time, that is correct. With
Yeah.
these structures, they do see a change in value. One of the things that we oftentimes see is that these structures are actually located either directly adjacent to the water or in the close proximity to the water, so therefore the value of those structures is somewhat more expensive to begin with.
Is there then a time limit in which, let's say they wanted to sell that home after it was completed? Is there a time limit in which they have to wait before they can sell that home?
With the FEMA program, there is no particular time limit. There is not. They just have to continue to maintain flood insurance coverage on that structure. Whoever buys it, even though it's elevated, they have to continue to maintain flood insurance coverage. And what we see traditionally is when the homes are elevated or reconstructed, they're at a higher elevation, so therefore the cost of that insurance is very minimal.
Decreases, yeah.
Yes, sir. So a home that maybe has a $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 flood insurance bill is now, moving in the range of, $1,000 or less.
Any other questions? Okay. We have a motion and a second. I believe this is a roll call vote.
Yes, I did not hear the motion.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
I thought we had-
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
The next item we have this morning are contract awards for the administrative services for the Community Development Block Grant Neighborhood Revitalization Process. The state did require us to, while we were also holding public hearings and deciding what we were going to apply for, they also required that we start moving forward with the process of trying to select, if we are going to have administrative services, trying to select a firm that would actually administer the CDBG NR program. We did go out to bid for that particular process. We actually sent out 15 proposals, and we also went through the state of North Carolina interactive purchasing systems, which are required by the state in order to make a selection. And we received back on February 12th, we actually received 3 proposals. One was from the Ferguson Group, which is a company located up out of the Washington, D.C. area. Another one was from Holland Consulting Planners, which we've done business with before. And the last was a company called W.R. Martin, which is located in the Raleigh area. Upon review and ranking of these 3 proposals, we did go through a process of looking at the experience that they'd had with similar projects, administering those projects. And all of the firms had considerable experience administering programs. The one thing that set them apart is that Holland has the majority of their experience dealing with not infrastructure or other types of studies, but the majority of Holland's work has been dealing with housing. And therefore, that was the reason that they scored higher in that category than what the other 2 firms had scored. The hourly rates that Holland proposed are similar to the ones that we currently have. In fact, they're identical. And also, we've been doing work with them since 1987, so we're familiar with their work. Therefore, based on the rating sheet that each of you received a copy of, we're recommending that Holland Consulting Planners be awarded the CDBG NR Administrative Services contract. That would only be, that contract would only be awarded in the event that we are successful in receiving the grant awards. And this is how the state has requested that we undertake this process. It's quite different than we've done in the past. So if, in order to move forward, that's what we're recommending, and you would have to make
A motion.
make a motion to award it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's, discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Don, who was on the committee that made the selection?
It was myself. I reviewed each of the proposals. We've done this on every grant that we've ever had. We go through the process of objectively, we have a series of questions that we ask. We look at the responses that they've given us. We also look at the experiences that they've had, and that's how we allocate the points to the process. As we mentioned, both firms, all 3 firms had, a lot of experience with community development block grant, but the other 2 more so along the lines of studies, economic development studies, with Holland just having a real concentration of housing. I think of the other 2 firms, one of them had an effort to deal with housing, and all the rest was other related community development block grant programs. So, not saying that they probably couldn't do it, but housing is quite a specialized field. You have to work with individuals, and you have to know what you're doing, and you also have to ensure that you have some good contractors that are bidding on these projects, and that you can provide the proper supervision during that process to accomplish the projects.
Well, these homes that they're working on are Riverbend, Trent Woods, New Bern, 911 Devers Avenue, Bridgeton, Felucia Court, and Spark Court. Those 3 are in my district.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you. Department Manners Finance Write-Off of Water Refund Receivables.
Good morning.
Greg Warren.
Good morning. Good morning.
And Rusty Hayes.
I am here this morning to talk to you about water receivable write-offs. Each January, the Water Department begins its annual bad debt write-off process by identifying the uncollectible receivables that are older than 1 year as of December 31st. Account balances that are under $50, account balances that are under $50 and written off, and account balances that are over $50 are put into a collection status, leaving them on the books for potential collection through the North Carolina Debt Set-Off Program. A review of the water fund's accounts receivable balance performed during the county's annual audit revealed that there are a number of old accounts that were included that exceed the collection period determined to be reasonably acceptable by accounting standards. The accounts classified as uncollectible consist entirely of those that were over the $50 that had not been written off in prior years, but rather put into a collection status. Even though the county continues to collect many of these old debts through the debt set-off program, a portion of them go uncollected, which has allowed the balance of these old receivables to grow over time, which, if ignored, could potentially lead to a material overstatement in the accounts receivable balance at year end. In order to prevent any potential misstatement of the water receivables from occurring, it is recommended by the management and the county's auditors that we update our current write-off procedures. What this update will include is the change in the procedures will take effect immediately and will establish a criteria for determining the uncollectible water receivables as all accounts regardless of the balance that are 4 years or older as of December 31st each year. Because this is the first year of this change, there are a total of $88,409.03 that meets the uncollectible criteria as of December 31st, 2013. Going forward, it is estimated this total would be approximately $20,000 to $25,000 per year annually, and will be presented to the board for its approval as part of the consent agenda. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions you may have and ask for you the
Let me
board's
get a motion
consideration.
first. Motion,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
Mr. Chairman, is this a policy being implemented at the suggestion of our auditor?
Yes, sir. It was suggested by the auditors. We do have a current write-off policy. As I said, that the ones that are under $50, we are writing those off annually. The ones that are over $50, we leave on the books in what you call a collection status. Those are transmitted to the North Carolina Debt Set-Off Program, and we are collecting through those means. And so what happens is that amount that we leave on the books in a collection status, all those do not get collected, 100% of those. So that balance just stays in the receivables, and it continues to grow each year. And so what we're proposing now, the change would be to write off, to look back at 4 years, look back. Anything older than that, we're going to start to begin to write off entirely.
Is that debt set-off program, I know it's worked pretty well for other situations where we use it, but with the water collection, is that, I mean, it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, it doesn't cost us anything. It's one of the best collection methods that we have in place, especially for local governments. To date, through the set-off program, as a county as a whole, we've collected $2.8 million. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of numbers, each year, I look back at the last 5 years, we are billing annually about, on average, $3.8 million in our water fund. When I go back and look at the uncollectible AR, that is about 21,000, so which is a little bit about 0.5%. So we're running each year, as we bill, we're collecting about 99 to 99.5% of what we bill.
Commissioner Tyson, on the debt set-off, great program. I think we've seen a little bit less in the last couple of years since there's been some tax reform. People's state income refunds aren't as much, and that was one of the big things that we were able to attach for taxes or water bills or any EMS bill. So as that amount goes down and people are getting less back, then we can collect less based on that concept. But we do get some off the lottery, which I think is interesting. Someone wins a lottery, they owe a water bill. I mean, it's been many times that people have called me and said, you know, I was supposed to get $1,000 and only got $115 because they had some debt to Craven County that pays first before they get their check. So that's not a pleasant call.
Specifically remember a situation where my office had gotten a call several months ago. A gentleman had won a scratch-off ticket, and he had to go to Greenville to collect his money. And as soon as he hands it to the woman up front, she turns around, goes in the back, and when she comes back up front, unfortunately, he couldn't collect his full winnings because he had owed the county some money on his water bill. So that was unfortunate, but that is a very good collection method that's not available to all organizations.
One more question.
Yeah.
You're gonna write it off the books, but it stays with debt set off?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to look back at, what we would do is go back to December 31st, 2013, because that's 4 years back from the December 31st, 2017. And we're going to write off everything that's on the books. When we look back into the account, we saw there was one debt that was from 2001 that was still on there. And so we can pretty much, at this point, consider that as a bad debt that we will not collect. I will point out that the amounts.
But it stays on the debt
Stays
set
on.
off?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The requirement for debt set-off is it has to exceed 60 days, and it has to be over $50 to submit that debt, to the debt set-off. So what we will be doing is continuing to do that. Even though we write them off of the receivable balance, they will continue to be submitted or on the debt set-off program, and we'll still be collecting them. But we collect accounts, Rusty, I mean, all the time, going back to previous years. And so that's part of their process. When a new customer comes in, they'll look in that, they'll look for their name in the system. And if they've ever had a water account with us, they will look back to see if they paid their account in full. If they still have a balance, if it shows that it's been written off, they will require a larger deposit or a payment.
Yeah, we don't change the deposit, but we did about 5 or 6 years ago start requiring to have a lease agreement or a purchase agreement. And normally they'll show both people on there, because some people would, if they had a bad debt and they knew it, they'd have their girlfriend, their wife, their friend come in and sign up. As long as they're on that lease, anything that's on there, we collect on that.
Madam Clerk, we need a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
You had a question?
How many accounts are we talking about? How many?
Total number of accounts,
Accounts.
when we looked at it, it was 524 accounts.
524?
Yes, sir. I think that is from 2001 was the earliest I saw it to 2013. So it's about 13 years of
Thank you, sir.
that.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Reiner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would you indulge me for a second to make one statement? And I realize that as I'm sitting here, this is Mr. Hayes' last county commissioner meeting as water superintendent. He'll be retiring at the end of February. So I want to recognize Rusty, who's been with us since 1993 and done a fabulous job for the taxpayers of Craven County, someone I respect. And as I mentioned in the department head meeting last week, he is a vision of a true public servant, and I just want to thank him for that. And we're going to miss you, Rusty.
I don't recall the board approving that.
No, I don't either.
Actually, I still haven't signed it, so I'm hanging on to
Remember
hope.
that coming before us?
Doesn't he have to work, what, one more year?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Rusty.
Thank you very much, Russ.
Next on the agenda is appointments, pending, upcoming. Appointments will be effective immediately unless otherwise specified. Adult Home Advisory Committee, I don't believe we have any appointments for the, no? There is a new application for the adult care and the nursing home facility from ECC, Eastern Carolina Council, which I believe we have a copy of. Now, Jack, will we still use both ours and theirs?
In my thinking, you'll probably never get an application because it's so onerous now to get somebody to serve on this board. I don't think anybody will be
Well,
willing
that's
to do
true,
it.
too.
But yeah, I guess in the question, it's up to the board. I mean, you're gonna have a whole nother thing coming from the COG, from the aging board. It's pretty much gonna have all the information you have now. I don't see the point in duplicating it, but again, we have a policy that if you're gonna be appointed by the county commissioners,
That we
you're
have
not
to have-
already appointed, you have an application, so we'll have to amend our bylaws
Well,
to do so.
I would think that our application should stay, and then they would have to give this application to the person, no? No? Or is that's duplication?
I don't really know how to answer. Let me just,
Okay.
let me work with them.
All right,
and
work
see
with them.
when, and I'll give them a call and talk about, maybe they can just fill out our form and send that as an attachment or something.
Okay. Next is the Craven Community Child Protection Team. We have terms ending Gail Horn and Mary Mallard. Do we,
We don't have anything on those yet.
don't have anything, okay. Upcoming appointments for March, Craven Community Child Protection Team, Ken Flowers, Craven County Clean Sweep Committee, Debbie Kirkman, Connie Adams, Bob Adams, and Eddie Gaines. April, we have the Regional Aging Advisory Board, Carolyn Bland and Thomas. And Voluntary Agricultural District, Dietrich Kilpatrick. So that takes care of that. County Attorney's Report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
A couple matters this morning. First of all, we've received an offer to purchase property located off of US Highway 70 East. You have it in your package, but it does not have a street address, so to give you some frame of reference, when you go across the bridge into James City and you cross the railroad track, to the left, you'll see a John Deere dealership. This tract is directly to the left as you would look at it from Highway 70, from that, where there's John Deere tractors for sale. So just to give you a perspective. But the offer is an amount of $10,000. It was property we acquired through a foreclosure, tax foreclosure in the amount of about $3,700. And you're very familiar with the process. What we would do if you'd like to accept this preliminarily, we will then go to public bids and bring it back to you.
Is
So
that
it's
property?
before you for $10,000.
Is that a good piece of property there?
Sir?
Is that a good piece of property there?
I'm not quite sure. I think with the new construction plans and layout for the highway over there, I think it may be, but I'm not fully sure.
It doesn't have direct Highway 70 frontage or service road frontage. It is on a side road. I mean, certainly, when they reconnect Elder Street, I think it's gonna be in the right spot, but it's just gotta have, the time to do so. I would certainly think somebody's looking at the future with this piece of property.
Well, I'm just looking at, we should maybe send this out for a bid, no?
Yeah. Did you say it did not have
I didn't think it
access
had
to the
direct.
service road?
I did not think, I'm sorry if I'm leading you astray there, let me.
Yeah, that map wasn't too clear.
Yeah,
Is
I
this it
think
right
it
here,
is.
Jim? I'm sorry, it does, it has a narrow point right there beside the old
Yeah.
gas station there.
It shows a unknown road. Is that where the railroad track is? Is that, I mean, railroad track's right beside that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, what's shown on the GIS map that says unknown, yes, sir, that's the right-of-way for the railroad.
Okay, any idea what size that is?
I do not know, no, sir.
And I don't, let's see, is that a railroad right-of-way, or is that just a right-of-way that the Dixie Chemical had? I think it was Dixie. Okay, so it's not, yeah, because it couldn't be it'd be hard to be a railroad right-of-way. They typically want 200 feet or at least 100, and that would put them in some of those houses over there. So, let me ask Don one more question, because this could affect the value of the property.
Yeah.
I think in the DOT plan, were they talking about closing the railroad spur to Dixie Chemical? That's going to be done, is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Okay, so if that's closed, that probably have a positive impact on that.
Definitely.
Okay.
So should we?
I would say it's worth more than $10,000.
Yeah, I would say so, too. I think we-
$10,000 to get the bids going. I
Mo-
would hope it is. If
Motion to
anybody's out
send
there
this back
looking-
out.
Yeah, any real estate investors.
Okay. What is the motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the bid for the
Second,
contract.
second motion.
Okay, upset. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
The second matter deals with the potential, entering potential litigation over the opioid epidemic, as the commissioners are well familiar with this issue. Sometime back, the board did instruct me as well as the county attorney to kind of begin the process, because as we've seen more and more counties and cities entering into class action lawsuits, we have been contacted by multiple firms for potential representation of the county in joining such a lawsuit. And since we had received multiple inquiries, I think we had recommended, and the board agreed, the best way would be to proceed with some kind of request for information to have firms apply, if you will, and to be reviewed, and a decision be made from there. So to that end, I have enclosed for you a resolution for you to consider. I do apologize, the resolution that's in your package has a number of blanks. That was the first draft. We subsequently obtained the information, and I know we don't like to pass handouts here, but if I may, the paragraphs that had some blanks, we now have relevant data. And so if you would like to see those, but again, the information has been provided and will be in these copies. But anyway, the process would be to approve this resolution. The resolution, in effect, basically announces our intent to pursue joining the class action lawsuit, to begin the process to seek requests for information from law firms and so forth. Second in your package is the actual request for information that we will send out as soon as you approve it, if you approve it. It's rather general, but it's pretty general and vague, somewhat by design, to allow the different firms who have different levels of expertise and experience to basically present to us what they want us to consider on their behalf. And then while it's not a written document, the third step would be for the chairman to appoint a special committee, if you will, for purposes of reviewing these applications and conducting any interviews deemed warranted, and then make a final recommendation to the full board.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, now,
Mr.
as far
Chairman.
as a committee,
I'm sorry, actually, if I presume that would be for the resolution, if you would also approve the request for information next.
okay,
Make a motion.
second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. On the committee, Jason, would you be willing to serve on that committee?
Yes, sir.
Steve
Yes, sir.
and Scott? I'll do it. I'll be on that committee. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, on the committee, just to, as you know, committees, more official committees like that are subject to the open meetings laws, so it will require 48-hour notice and posting of things of that nature. We are aware of, I think at least 10 law firms that have expressed interest, if not with us, around the state in general. So we do expect this to go out to a substantial number of law firms, actually.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a point of information?
Yes.
What we're doing for people that may not be aware is we are, the attorney that we would not, I guess you would say hire, although we're not going to be paying them, is that correct? They would receive their money from whatever national firm is involved in this class action lawsuit, is that correct?
Well, that's how it's normally done, but that's what we'll verify through this process.
Okay, all right, so it wouldn't be costing us anything.
Right, it wouldn't cost us.
Correct.
There's a possibility that if the lawsuit's successful, that Craven County would receive money if there's any left over after paying the attorneys.
Yes, sir.
And that, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we weren't hiring an attorney and paying them a lot of money for something that may or may not prove beneficial. But
Yes.
I do applaud that Craven County has taken this action. I think that evidence suggests that pharmaceutical companies have been very irresponsible in the way that they have promoted opiates and has some, certainly some culpability in the crisis that's going on today. And therefore, they should be paying the price.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything further, but I will point out the closed session at the end of the meeting. It does not have the citation reference. This would be a closed session pursuant to 143-318.11A7. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll have to remember that.
It's on the record.
At this time, we'd like to make a award, Old State Award.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce Senator Don Davis.
That's what I was just going to do. I'd like to introduce Senator Don Davis to come up and present that award.
Mr. Chair, and to all of the members and to the staff and to this community, My name is Don Davis, and I serve in the North Carolina Senate representing District 5, which is down east, Pitt, Wayne, Greene, and Lenoir counties, and that's as of today, because y'all know what's taking place statewide. But I'm here today on behalf of the governor and a colleague. We're all special, and I would like to first and foremost thank all of the leaders here in Craven County and this board for your service and your commitment to this community. However, today I would like to recognize one who has been special in what he's done, and we want to recognize those special contributions that he's made. This one grew up in the Harlow community, the son of a preacher. He went on to Havelock High, and he left us and went to New York. He went to New York to pursue a dream and a passion of becoming a police officer and serving in law enforcement. And boy, did he serve, and he learned and did well, had a great career. But the most important thing is he did something that we would like to always encourage. He didn't forget home, and he came back. He came back, and boy, did he come back, because he rolled up his sleeves, and he went to work. He went to work. He was highly engaged with the fire department, became a chief. He decided to run for office, was actually elected to this distinguished body in 2006. He's done work around housing, education in particular, with children, as you know his record. And ladies and gentlemen, it's truly an honor to come and make a presentation. And I'm going to ask if Commissioner, if you can come join me for a second, Commissioner Theron McCabe. And I would like to share the words. And this award is the Old North State Award. And it's for dedication and service beyond expectation and excellence to the great state of North Carolina. And on behalf of the citizens of this state, bestowed upon you the Old North State Award by Governor Roy Cooper. And this is signed by the governor. And it says, working together, we can make North Carolina the place of unlimited opportunity, a place where anyone who studies hard, works hard, and lives a life with high values can fulfill and even exceed their potential. And we would like to say to you, Commissioner, on behalf of all of the state, the residents of our state, and we have over 10 million residents, we thank you for your great contributions, not only to Craven County, but when you work as you have with board of directors and done so many things, even with the Association of County Commissioners, that your work has gone way beyond Craven County. And we recognize that, and we appreciate you today. And it's my honor to present to you the Old North State Award. Thank you so much.
Well, it is an honor and honor to thank Governor Walker from the great state of North Carolina and for considering me for this award. And I want to thank him. I also have to thank John Davis, the senator, and also Howard 103rd for nominating me for this award. And I appreciate it. I also have to thank God for my first, and I also have to thank my family. I have my brother, his wife here, Julie McCabe, Jean, my pastor Robinson, Dr. Robinson Jr., and his wife, and Mary Bell. If it wasn't for Mary Bell and Chad Strong and Don Baumgartner, this would not have been possible. They have been my backbone in all this work I've done. Also, Hughes Overhaul also was my co-worker working with me all along to help this be possible. And I thank everybody that helped me along the line. Please, thank you very much for coming by and recognize this award for me. Tell the governor, thank you, and I need about 8 more years. Now I receive the order of a long decline. Thank you very much for this award. Thank you, Don.
That's my
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to honor today.
Thank you for coming.
All my colleagues,
Absolutely. God bless you all, and God bless Craven County.
hang around, we have a little session after this.
Next on the agenda is a closed session. Do I have a motion to go in closed session for session pursuit to NCCGS 143-318-11?
I'll make that motion with a 5-minute recess.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Nays? Ayes have it.